Hi everyone. This is going to be an interesting stream. I have something to talk about, and before I get to the game that I'm going to be covering today, so I'm going to preface this. Both games that I am going to talk about today, I don't believe I bought either of which. I'm pretty sure that the game studios in both cases gave me the keys for review purposes. Hi, hello everyone. My name is Meltman. This is Gaming Philosophy. We do the gaming thing here. You get it. You're smart. You got a good brain on your shoulders. You know what's going on. Hi. So a while back, I streamed and covered a game that's on early access called Surviving the Aftermath. Let's go ahead and pop that up real quick so we get a quick refresher. Surviving the Aftermath. Survive and thrive in a post-apocalyptic future. Resources are scarce, but opportunity calls. Build the ultimate disaster-proof colony. Protect your colonists. Restore civilization to a devastated world. Remember, the end of the world is just the beginning. I played this game, I think, a lot. I showcased a lot of different things it has. It's got some balance issues, which it's early access, so it has balance issues. Again, $25 game, early access, that's fine. That means that it's going to go ahead and take some time before it's gonna be perfect. That came out on 2019. Was that the one with the hunters in the water cave? I don't believe so. It was the one where... Oh my god. Are all these videos? It was the one where you basically... the world is blown to crap, and it looks like there's a bunch of videos, but this is the only picture, where you build a settlement, you dig resources out of the ground. Hey, E.T. Welcome to the stream. And you basically salvage resources around you. And you went ahead and got, yeah, here, Surviving the Aftermath. It's, like I said, $24.99. I got it for free. Thank you, Ice, Flake Studios and Paradox Interactive. Again, 2019. Strategy City Builder Early Access. I had fun with this game. Yeah. With caravans, people want to join my colony? Yes. See, Daniel, you remember when I covered this, right? Well, today, I was sent another key from a completely different studio about Endzone's World Apart. Endzone is a post-apocalyptic survival city builder where you start a new civilization with a group of people after a global nuclear disaster. Build a new home, ensure their survival in a shattered world threatened by constant radiation, toxic rain, sandstorms, and drought. This game was released just today. I mean, not today, but like just this month. And I saw when they sent it to me, they asked me if I would do a review of it, and I would say, yeah, sure, I'd take a look at it. And then I took a closer look at the game. And I want to be very clear. Thank you, Gently Made Studios and Assemble Entertainment and Whisper Games for giving me the option to play this game for free. It was $25 $3.99, now on sale for $15.95, 35% off. So, cheaper by a buck? Did the original authors sell it? It's now, I'm going to go ahead and say this very clearly. Endzone, A World Apart is not Surviving the Aftermath. They are different games, but they are shockingly similar. So let's be clear. When I got this game, before I decided to stream it and do this stream, I wanted to play it. So I do have almost a day's worth of playtime before I have come to this decision. Now, let's go ahead and look at something real quick. Before we go any further, let's go back to the store. This came out, Enzo came out this month. Mostly positive reviews. There's over 2,000, almost 3,000 reviews, recent, almost in the 600s. Now, if we go ahead and go to Surviving, if I could spell worth a crap, the Aftermath. So this game costs $1 more, released last year, is still in early access, and has 1,000 views overall, and they're mixed. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say Endzone released, and it released as a complete game. Surviving the Aftermath released, and it's releasing as a early access. Yeah, so again, they are different games, but they are also strikingly similar. Similar to games you've played, Oxygen Not Included and Endzone. Even Steam knows they're so similar. So, if you don't know what it was like when I played Surviving the Aftermath, if you haven't seen that, I have it all archived over on the YouTube channel, Gaming Philosophy. Go ahead and look for the Surviving the Aftermath playlist. But now I'm going to showcase what Endzone, A World Apart is. So it has almost 3 times the reviews and better review ratings. But it's a very similar game. Now, Surviving the Aftermath struggles a bit because a lot of things are kind of unbalanced in Surviving the Aftermath. It's still early access. And again, I cut games a lot of slack when they're early access because that means they were released in a state that isn't complete. Whereas Endzone, A World Apart is saying, I'm a done game. And you know what? Comparing a game that's incomplete still, but was released last year, just at the end of it, and a game that's being released, let's see, so it was released on Steam on October 2020, and Endzone was released on Steam this month, 2021. So that's what? 5-month difference, half a year difference. Endzone is not complete. I mean, Endzone is a complete game. They might add more to it, but Surviving the Aftermath still feels incomplete. So I'm going to say that these games are direct competitors. So I'm going to go through the tutorial, and you guys, if you've watched me play Surviving the Aftermath, just watch this tutorial and tell me if you start to feel like you're playing Surviving the Aftermath instead of Endzone as a World Apart. I'll let you guys tell me. Start tutorial. If you remember when I streamed that. I'm going to do the basic tutorial. Here we go.
We finally left the end zone. Just look at this beautiful scenery. It's marvelous, even though it's a bit different from what we had pictured. We were able to secure a few basic resources and are storing them in our bus.
Now, I'm going to go and say this. Surviving the Aftermath did have caricatures like this, but this guy, he's slightly moving a little bit. There's a little more animation, so it looks a little bit more polished.
I'm glad we prepared ourselves well
and voice
for this
acting
kind of scenario, especially since our inventories in the end zone ran low. Don't forget that if you need additional information, you can look at our survival guide at any time.
Okay. Open the survival guide. Boop. And here's basically your wiki. So you don't have to wiki things.
Well done. Everything you need to know should be right here.
Ooh, Mr. Prepper.
I think the time has come for us to at last build ourselves a new home here.
Mr. Prepper, I've been wanting to go and get that. You know, okay, after we go ahead and do a little bit of surviving the aftermath, what do you guys say? I don't own Mr. Prepper, but for you guys, I will buy it right here on stream, and we will play it just after I showcase how much this game is like surviving the aftermath. What do you say? Would that be cool? Would you guys down for some Mr. Prepper action after we do this? Yeah. All right.
Before we can construct,
the developer never gave me a key for that one.
We have to assign the profession builder to several settlers so that they can take care of construction contracts. In general, it's your responsibility to decide which tasks are important.
Now, I'm going to
how our settlers are supposed to be distributed to attend to them.
Here is something that is very similar. You need to maintain default settlers because they're the ones that transfer goods between different areas. Carries out simple tasks and helps transport resources. If you do not have any free settlers in either game, you get punished for it. But in Surviving the Aftermath, you have to go to each individual building and assign people to tasks. But in this, they give you an entire chart where you get to apply everyone to it. So let's go ahead and say, I want 3 settlers to be builders instead.
Your builders will be ready as soon as construction contracts have been issued. It's time to start focusing on our key and most basic need, water. The first thing we ought to do is to establish a working water supply. So we'll move on to our first construction contract. Place and build a jetty by a lake in the vicinity of your town center.
Okay. A jetty.
Very good. The jetty was completed as planned. Now we have a place where we can collect water. There are other possibilities to gather water too, but the jetty is the simplest and most cost-effective. We can obtain and store water from different sources, like a jetty, rain collector, or well in the cistern. The cistern should always be in close proximity to a water source, so that our water carriers don't have to walk too far.
Okay. Build 1 cistern. There we go. And now we need to go ahead and have assigned water carriers, 3. Now producing water and producing the cistern. And now, I want to speed this up by go ahead and taking it down to here.
Great. Now we should focus on food production. It's important to ensure the supply right from the start. The gatherer's cabin, a hunting lodge, or a fishing hut can directly remedy the situation. I suggest starting with a fishing hut, since we're already located near a lake.
There we go. Good old fishing hut. And then assign a couple fishers.
Good work. Crops are another excellent way.
Okay, and now cultivated fields. Now, this is, you'll notice, things are starting to feel a little different in Surviving in Aftermath, and I'm going to say this right now. I picked up on it right away. It feels like just absolutely the game has just a little bit more. And let's see here. We have we'll choose that. Three stags and a doe. Open integration.
Looks good. Remember that we need the widest variety of food sources to stay healthy. You should also plan ahead for drought periods that might come when it's not. At the beginning, we don't have much scrap, wood, or other resources. We could build a production building, but to obtain resources as fast as possible, it's best that we start gathering right away. Assign a Gather All Resources task. All the settlers who haven't been assigned any profession by you are going to accept these kinds of tasks.
Okay. Now, it said gather all resources. I think that's old dialogue because they don't have gather all as what you're supposed to do. They have gather scrap. Now, gather scrap will go ahead and without a building, will grab small scrap off, but it won't get any big piles. So we want this as close to our hub as possible, these gathering tasks, because they're going to collect these resources and bring them right back to the van. We've already produced enough scrap. We've almost produced enough wood. And boom.
Since we know, right up.
Okay. Now, they want a forester's lodge. Resources, forester's lodge. Now again, I could build this really close, but the Forester's Lodge, like in Surviving the Aftermath, can grow plants as well as harvest them within this range. But Surviving the Aftermath has a nursery and a Forester's Lodge. They split it into two separate buildings, which you have to put employees to do both. One for harvesting wood and one for cutting it down. And I don't want to go ahead and grow trees too close to base. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Forester's Lodge right here next to the water. And what we'll do is we will end up moving the build area. There we go. And we're already producing wood from here, so it's just a matter of getting it built.
Good job. You might want to change this build. Very good.
Get death due to dysentery. Yep, I know. And then I'm going to change this to here, where they're going to cut down and reforest those trees. Now we need to build a scrapyard. Now, the scrapyard is what gets your bigger scrap. taken care of. So I'm going to put that right next to the... Oh, I was going to put it right there, but apparently I can't. Actually, you know what? I don't like that position. There we go. And then we need one person as a scrap collector. Now, I'm going to go down to just one builder so I have more settlers ferrying stuff around. Really? Is it... Here, hold on. If I put 4 people on building duty, does that mean they'll deliver the goods? There we go.
Great. You could... Our people want a place to sleep and...
Okay, cabins. So, again. Now this, we can build right up against the starting area. No problem. Build 8 cabins. I think we'll go with this configuration. And then there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now we're having a drought hit. Oncoming drought. Now our water in our cistern is full. We can't get any more water in there.
Besides cabins, you can also provide sturdy houses and shelters as housing. Sturdy houses withstand sandstorms better and have an increased storage capacity to boot. Children living in houses gradually fill up the house's stockpiles. Settlers do not reproduce in a shelter because they lack privacy. Let's return from our excursion into housing and refocus on scrap. With the help of a recycler or refinery, scrap can be sorted into 4 different resources. A recycler always takes scrap apart, one resource at a time, while a refinery automatically produces all 4 resources. To start off, you should build a recycler and produce cloth.
Okay. Now, they take scrap to produce these resources. Well, we harvest scrap using this building here. So having it close is in our benefit. Now, these 2 things, they're not doing anything because there's no resources they can gather nearby. So we're going to relocate the one for the trees. And then we're going to go ahead and relocate the one for the scrap. And then we need to go ahead and put a refiner in. Alright. Recycler, recycling cloth. Cloth produced 4. So, this is where I want to go ahead and talk about this, how things are different. In Surviving the Aftermath, they give you concrete, metal, plastics, where you're going out and building different buildings to harvest those from the world. And the world looks a whole lot more devastated than in this game. Whereas this game chooses to do the resource mechanics a little differently. They do scrap and they do wood. And then recyclers process scrap into, or foundries process that scrap for you into what is useful. Plastics, electronics, metal, and cloth. So rather than having to deal with having to hunt down tons of different types of resources all over the map and move these resource nodes around, it simplifies the resource types, but puts in more work that has to be done to processing those resources. So it allows for a easier to manage system that I think comes off
You can
well.
instruct your recyclers. Happy settlers are industrious settlers. That's why we ought to look after our people and protect them against the surroundings and dangers, like radiation. So let's start by transforming our newly recovered cloth into protective clothing. A tailor will be able to help us with that.
Okay. And again, I'm putting the tailor down right here because the tailor's going to need cloth. We have the recycler producing cloth here from the scrap that we get from the scrapyard here. Again, the whole point of putting these all close together is to make a quicker trip for my settlers going from place to place to place. Efficiency in design. And then the tailor produce neck scarf. Come on. You have the supplies. Get to bloody work. Oh, you were out lollygagging about.
We categorize environmental radiation into 4 levels: no radiation, low level, medium level, and high level radiation. The radiation changes constantly and is influenced by weather and contaminated rain. Protective clothing helps to protect us against this kind of radiation, but it takes a while before it's produced. And production relies on a steady flow of incoming resources. Try to establish production chains at an early stage and start to stockpile goods so that some are always on hand. The tools we brought along from the Endzone are slowly but surely running out. So now, let's focus on manufacturing new tools. The tools will help us to work effectively. We'll need metal for that, so we'll prepare for production by building another recycler, which we'll commission to recover metal from scrap. After that, we'll need a workshop to enable the manufacturing of brand new tools.
Okay. Build a second recycler, and we will put the workshop right next door. And technician, recycler. Now we have a problem here. We're low on people. And this, you're doing metal. Oh. I put in the wrong one. There we go. And instruct you to make metal tools. There's 2 choices. There's scrap tools and metal tools. The difference is metal tools require actual metal parts, which you render from scrap just like you do cloth. Multiple recyclers, refineries, scrapyards. You can build multiple, yes. And what that does is it increases the amount of people you can put into that job. So like if you're not getting scrap fast enough, you can put down a second scrapyard. And that way, instead of having 5 scrap collectors, you could have 10 scrap collectors. But then again, you can always just go ahead and put people out in the fields this way. I'm gonna go ahead. Stop these tasks because I'm kind of low on people, and I'd rather have them ferreting goods around than doing anything else. You see, this one needs metal, so I need that person free to move metal from here to there. We'll take one person off fishing to help. And we just need to be able to produce 2 metal tools to complete this. So, what I'm going to say is, Surviving the Aftermath is made from the same people that made Surviving Mars, Paradox. I have played a lot of Paradox games, and the fact that Surviving the Aftermath was released in somewhat of an unfinished state as an early access game, whereas now we have Endzone: A World Apart that's released in a state that's more refined, a little bit more polished and streamlined, and only 5 months later, whereas Surviving the Aftermath feels like it needs a bit more work to it before it gets to this point. I'm wondering if there was some delays caused by COVID.
With our lovely new tools, we are now prepared to work effectively. Should you ever run out of metal, keep in mind that you can also instruct your workshop to manufacture tools from scrap instead of metal. Though they won't be quite as effective, it's still better than being forced to work with bare hands. Down in the Endzone, we had sufficient time and resources to educate ourselves properly. But our children don't have this luxury. We ought to build a school and pass on what we've learned. As a result, they will be able to survive and work better and more effectively.
Okay, building a school. We now have a school teacher. My people need to get busy popping out kids.
Perfect. Now that our population is starting to grow, we ought to again turn our attention to the topic of food production. We are already accumulating fish and tilling our fields. A gatherer's cabin will now enable us to gather mushrooms and berries from the forest nearby.
Okay. What? Godless? These people don't have access to electricity, let alone the internet, let alone computers or video games. So, to answer your question, is what if someone doesn't want to work and just wants to laze around all day playing Fortnite or something? Well, I would love to know how they're playing it. Because that means there's resources that could be tapped into. But to really answer your question, I think, more honestly, in a survival situation like this, it's kind of everybody exists to help everybody else out. If you are not carrying your weight in a survival situation where you're starting on building a town, you're going to deal with the peer pressure of your peers who are having to deal with what you're not doing. So unless someone's going to shoulder up and do your job for you so you can slack off, the entire community is probably going to get pissed at you. I have always had a game plan for the coming desolation. Loot every cell phone tower for the backup generators they have. I will have power for my laptop, damn it. Ooh. Well, when we know why the cell grid goes down during an apocalypse, we know who sabotaged the cell towers now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and build a gatherer's cabin, and this is going to gather berries. Now, since we know that this area here will continue to have berries because we plan to keep it forested, I'm going to build a gatherer's cabin here. So again, we'll have this area here be our berry area. Very good. Yes. Because again, this is the area that we're choosing to have our forester work on. And then we need to go ahead and get to... Alright, so this... Let's see here. These are mushrooms and these are berries. Yeah. So let's look at this. We have fish. We have black saffron. We're gonna have.
Very good. Although we...
Okay. Now they want us to build an orchard as a second form of foodstuffs. We can go ahead and go with that being the orchard. I'm fine with that. Again, keeping it close to... Alright. Choose. There we go. And now we need to assign a new farmer.
The orchard, our gatherer's cabin.
Now, moving on from the gatherer's cabin, resources, herbalist hut, and much like the gatherer's cabin, we're going to build the herbalist hut right here. And get an herbalist. Because again, we're going to keep this area forested. So we're going to try to go and use this as our nature preserve so we can get what we need out of it.
Well done. We can equally utilize the gathered herbs to convert them into medicine later on. It might happen that an illness breaks out in our settlement from time to time and spreads among our settlers. That's why we always ought to have enough herbs on hand. Radiation is the main reason why the health status of our settlement can decrease. Although our settlers already use protective clothing to shield themselves against environmental radiation, it might occur that our sources of water become contaminated. We should start to filter our water to prevent this from happening. We will need a great deal of charcoal to accomplish this. The charcoal kiln will burn wood to produce charcoal.
Charcoal kiln, charcoal burner, and again, we're getting wood here. We're going to put the charcoal kiln there because we already have a farm here. And charcoal is a very much natural way of pulling toxins out of things, so... and we're maxed out on wood already, so... we're doing good on settlers. Might have to build more houses here soon. And you'll notice I left room for additional housing on purpose. We have homeless settlers. I think it's...
Great. We can use...
Okay, so now they're telling me I need plastics. So, again, keeping everything in place where resources can be brought together. And then we're going to need a new refiner. And then switch you to plastics. Now, they want me to upgrade my water tower so it holds more. There we go. And that requires getting a certain amount of plastic to be able to do that. So going from a cistern to a water tower. And then we'll use the charcoal to go ahead and make charcoal filters to purify the water. So, how do the settlers arrive? I thought no babies because cabins. No okay. Cabins, yes, babies. Shelters, no babies. Shelters are basically tents. No babies happen in shelters because of, you know, there's no privacy. But cabins and sturdy houses, yes. But shelters and upgraded shelters, no. Cabins for the shaggins, yes. Don't clip that. And there's our water tower. Oh, and I need to assign more water carriers. Oh, that wrong one.
Let's begin with filtering our water. To save on charcoal, we ought to
Activate fill water. We need to build a well. Well. And here works fairly well. And then we need a well keeper. And then we need to instruct Taylor to make activated charcoal masks and produce activated charcoal masks. So charcoal is used as the filter in the water tower to clean the water, but I now can make charcoal gas masks instead of just neck scarves.
Good work. We are continuously taking steps towards being better and better equipped to be able to survive in this hostile environment. Filtered water is a precious asset, and later on we can even use it to irrigate our fields. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Not only our water can become a hazard for our settlers due to radiation, our food can too. We ought to erect a decontamination post to prevent settlers from eating meals that are contaminated with radiation.
Okay. Now, decontamination posts. You'll notice that you see how it makes that place, and that place turn yellow. That's because those are buildings that it can affect. But again, like every other building, you can assign a new work area for it. So I'm going to put it, I think, right here. I think that'll work. So I have my industrial park over here, and I have my housing here. Now you'll notice something. The people living close to the industrial park, not very happy. I wonder why. People living over near the field, they're not exactly pissed, but they aren't enjoying themselves too much. This guy over here, near the Babbling Brook, which is our water tower. Yeah. Oh, we need a decontamination.
Very good. The decontamination post is going to supply all buildings that stockpile food and are located in its working area in order to purify the food that has been affected by radiation.
Decontamination kits.
It's true. We should never forget that even when we optimally prepare and protect ourselves, we're still going to lose friends and members of our family time and again. We're going to mourn them, come what may. But if we're able to bury them in a cemetery, then we'll get over the pain and let them rest in peace.
There we go. Cemetery it is. And hire one mortician. My mortician is just laying there staring at the stars. Like, I got nothing to do. My job isn't open yet. I'm just gonna chill. That cloud looks like death.
Okay. The cemetery will help us to quickly get a hold on ourselves and focus on the tasks that lie ahead. It's not a pleasant thought, but that's the way things are. At the very least, we're pioneers, aren't we? Maybe we ought to distract ourselves to lighten up the mood. We can erect a number of buildings to increase confidence in our settlement, including, for example, a campfire or a pub. In this situation, however, our best option would probably be to upgrade our town center. Settlers can visit the new town center, and by doing so, increase their confidence for a while.
Okay. Bus wreck, upgrade.
Very good. The new town center not only gives us more storage space, at the same time, it functions just like a campfire, too. Settlers can visit the new town center, and by doing so, increase their confidence for a while. Now that we have made efforts to ensure the spiritual well-being of our settlers, we ought to attend to their physical health as well. Our settlers can get sick from time to time. Settlers who have become infected with a disease can die from it if they're not treated. Settlers will go to a medical facility to have themselves treated and will be admitted there, provided that beds are still available. We ought to ensure our settlers' medical health care.
Better than some governments. Alright. Did I see your DM? I will take a look at that right now. Ooh. Ooh. E.T. throwing it down. You got 40 on a par of 50. Okay. Okay. Alright. What game is that? I see how it is. Yeah. Hospital right next to the cemetery. Hey, hey. Oh, this is a problem. Let me go and move this zone here. I have a scrapyard next to my recyclers, next to the facilities that use the stuff the recyclers make. It's all about efficient design. Golf with your friends? Alright, I thought it might be golf with your friends. I'll take a look at it later and maybe get some golf with your friends in. Maybe, you know, if people are free tomorrow night and I'm not tied up, maybe I can get some of you to go ahead and play some golf with your friends with me. We'll see who we can round up tomorrow night. But I need to go and get these wrecks out of here anyways, so let's go ahead and let's see, where is scrap collector? I'm low on scrap, so I'm gonna go ahead and have more people become scrap collectors. See, I'm out. We have 3 children, 37 adults. Maxed out on food and water. And we're now producing medicine. Maybe.
With this step, we have ensured that while cabins are a good way to get settlers to start a family, they only provide limited space. This can quickly lead to people having to live on the street. Allow me to suggest to you that cabins be provided only in a very targeted manner in order to control the population growth of your settlement. Nothing is worse than not having enough resources to provide for everyone. We ought to build a shelter to be able to provide other inhabitants with a roof over their heads too.
And this is how you do population control, folks. You give some people no privacy so they don't get jiggy with it. You have those that, when you need more kids, you give them a home with privacy so they can go bow chicka bow wow. Should the fishing cabin point of collection cover the entire lake? I can't move the point of the fishing cabin because that one's actually locked on this area. But I can build more.
Remember that when children grow up, they're going to leave their parents' house and look around for a new place to live. It might happen that they don't find any home at all. We ought to build a shelter to be able to provide all inhabitants with a roof over their heads. I've already pointed out to you that it could become very dangerous if we were to run out of food at some point. Since a lot of people are going to be living in the new shelter, we ought to provide them with access to food in their vicinity. A hunting lodge can look for wildlife in the surrounding area to bring a little meat to the menu.
Okay. So, let's see, hunting lodge. And again, since I'm keeping this area forested, it is where I will build said hunting lodge. I'll build it there. And then, of course, we need a huntsman, roe, and wild boar. Roe venison and wild boar meat. And you can see there's boar there. There's deer there. So, again, easy clap. And again, keeping this forest up and running so all of the professions that need good hunting grounds have good hunting grounds. I'm going to put this right here because it just goes off of what's in the area. Okay. This is taking a bit. Hire more hunters. They're literally walking. Now, with shelters, you do have some occupant restriction. You could literally have the old and infertile in the shelter. So all the young and virile are in cabins. If you do that, it kind of boosts population real fast. Okay, venison and boar meat. Doing good. Boar going at after those mushrooms. Deer just wandering through like they don't got a care in the world. Oh, is that lanterns that they let loose in the air? Aw. As maybe a funeral for people that have passed on? That is so sweet. They have funeral celebrations. Releasing lanterns into the air for those that have passed on. Come on. Is it because food capacity is maxed? Let me go ahead and increase food capacity. Production limit for food has been increased. There we go.
The hunting lodge equally provides us directly with food, but however...
Okay, and now we're going to switch this to hunting and capture, and we're going to build pastures. The fact that these wrecks haven't been taken out yet is causing me a problem. I do have them gathering here, right? I have them gathering max, right? I wanted this to be housing in here. Now, I guess this is going to be pasture then. Adderworks! What the, hey! Hey! Damn, Daniel. Jesus. Alright, and we're going to choose... Oh. They want this on capture only. And then choose animal. Here.
Animals captured by a hunter are brought to a pasture where they are tended to and cared for by herders. You must provide water for the animals you keep on your pasture. This enables them to survive and reproduce. When enough animals are fully grown, the herder will start to slaughter them. If you don't want animals to be slaughtered, you can also instruct the herder not to do so. Now your herders know how they ought to handle the animals. And now that you've already captured several animals, don't forget to instruct your hunters to hunt animals again in the future so that they can continue to gather and provide food. With our increased production, our stockpile is going to run out soon. The supply routes for our production buildings are getting longer and longer too.
Not really. I kept it fairly...
You ought to build a temporary storeroom and have roads laid out.
Okay. So, logistics, dirt roads. As you can tell, I have been planning roads this entire time. Or maybe I haven't been. And this is all an illusion. That should be good. There you go. Now, a temporary storeroom. Resources. So, okay. Resources get produced here. They get stored here. I'm not producing resources here. So this makes the most sense for a temporary storeroom. So there's less area that has to be traveled to go and get to the resources. At least that's what I'm thinking. And that keeps it in the decontamination range. Build temporary storage room 1. Build 10 dirt roads. I think we can go and build the roads just a little bit faster. Oh, look at this. Dirt roads. Build 10.
Good.
Yeah.
To improve the whole thing even further, we can build a market to improve logistics at the settlement. Besides being an enormous stockpile for resources that is even able to store water, the market is responsible for distributing resources within your settlement. What's more, it also increases your settlers' confidence.
Jesus. Huh. That works. So maybe this will be my hub over here for housing. There we go. Right behind the cemetery, there's a market. And then we need some... Well, I guess that makes sense, because there's a temporary resource here, resource hub here, and another huge resource hub there. That does spread it out a bit. And we can build more housing around that to make people happy. We're missing wood. Why are we missing wood? Okay, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We need wood. We need it now. And there is wood over here. Go get it. And then we'll take our builders down to 4. So that way there's more people free to get wood. So, here's where I'm going to stop the game. Again. This game, on the surface level, looks like it was released 5 months after Surviving the Aftermath. And at the surface level, it looks like a clone of Surviving the Aftermath, made by a completely different company. And there are a lot of elements that are very similar. But Surviving the Aftermath has a very closed-off world where you have to exit a gate to go to a world gate where you have different hero characters go out and gather resources and do tasks. Here, the world is open. You can go and explore and gather resources wherever you want. It's not a separate world. You don't have to build a gate, which is the only way in and out of the settlement, where you have to deal with being attacked. This does have raiders that will attack you, but the raiders can come from any direction instead of one gate that you have to defend. So, while I will say that Surviving the Aftermath and Endzone are very similar, they're both distinctly different games that just happen to have the exact same concept. They're both rebuilding civilization after a catastrophe. So can you go ahead and survive post-apocalyptia? Dealing with cataclysmic weather conditions, nuclear fallout, droughts, sandstorms, the occasional meteor, that sort of thing. Only, I think meteors only exist in Surviving the Aftermath, and Sandstorms only exist in Endzone, worlds apart. So I'm going to say, being that I have played yeah, plus the layout is literally one of 3 options for top-down games. Yeah, I'm going to say Surviving the Aftermath is a good game, but it lacks polish. It's also in early access, so we can cut it slack for that. I'm sure Paradox will go ahead and get that game better balanced, more polished, and it'll be an amazing game eventually. But if you want a game right now that its base price is $1 cheaper and it's already a polished game, Endzone A World Apart is an amazing game. I, again, have, before this stream, to make sure that it wasn't just a carbon copy, I played it for almost a full day's worth of playtime. 22 hours and some change. To just make sure this was a good game before I would go ahead and, do the stream. Kind of review it. Give you guys my first-hand opinion. So, again, if you want to pick up Endzone World Apart or Surviving the Aftermath, they both have different elements that make them interesting games. I would say definitely go for either. But me personally, if I had to pick between Surviving the Aftermath and Endzone, right now I would be favoring Endzone. I think it's a more balanced and polished game. The thing is, though, is Paradox is a pretty good game studio. I've played a lot of games from them. And because Surviving the Aftermath is in early access, I expect them to continue to polish and build that game up. And then, who knows, maybe a year or 2 years down the road, if the studio involved with Endzone doesn't keep with it, keep on making it a great game, maybe Surviving the Aftermath will be the better game. But I want to be clear, this is not an issue of one game copying another. This is literally 2 games that are working with a very similar concept that are direct competitors. And because as a streamer, I play no favorites. Just because people give me keys for games occasionally does not mean that I give them a good review. It means that I give my honest opinion. So, right now, as it stands, in the bout between Surviving the Aftermath, Endzone's the better game. It's $1 cheaper. It's currently on sale on Steam. And that's where my opinion lands. If Surviving the Aftermath comes out of early access, much more polished game with more to it that streamlines it is better, then maybe I'll change my mind eventually. But this is where I'm going to go ahead and save this. You know what? I've already played through this. I'm going to exit this game, and we're going to switch things up now.